Noah is on a date with Chad, a guy she met through a dating app. She is hopeful that things will go well, even though her first impressions aren't great, especially after her friend reminded her to always bring her own money. Unfortunately, as she feared, Chad turns out not to be such a great guy. During the date, he keeps talking only about himself, making sexist remarks and even insulting Noah's appearance because she didn't dress up much. At the end of the date, Chad asks her out again, but Noah refuses. He doesn't take the rejection well and storms off, calling her conceited and saying she wasn't his type anyway. During a boxing class, Noah opens up to her best friend Molly about the horrible date. Molly reassures her that she doesn't need a man, though Noah continues swiping through dating apps when she gets home. Still, she has no luck. One night while shopping at the grocery store, Noah meets Steve, who strikes up a conversation with her about cotton candy. Though it seemed like a clumsy pickup attempt, he ends up asking for her number, and surprisingly, Noah gives it to him. The next day, Steve doesn't wait long to message her, and soon the two are chatting. Noah feels drawn to him, partly because of the encouraging words Molly had once said about love. Jokingly, Noah tells Molly that Steve is probably married, but she still feels intrigued by him. On her way home, she is surprised when Steve actually invites her out for drinks. At the bar, they start getting to know each other, and Noah learns that Steve is a plastic surgeon. The date goes fantastically well, and they end up spending the night together. The next morning, Noah calls Molly to share the details, gushing about how amazing it was. But Molly grows curious and decides to look Steve up online. Strangely, she finds no social media accounts at all. Molly warns Noah that this is a red flag, but Noah is too enchanted by Steve to care. As their call ends, Molly mentions she recognized a familiar sound in the background that night. It was someone she used to date. Later, Noah and Steve meet again, this time at her apartment. While ordering food, Noah learns that Steve is vegetarian. Once again, the night feels perfect. Steve then invites her on a surprise weekend trip, and Noah doesn't hesitate to agree. When she tells Molly about the trip, her best friend is immediately alarmed, pointing out that Noah doesn't even know where she'll be staying. Still, Noah is so interested in Steve that she brushes off the concern. Steve picks her up, saying they'll stay at his house that night and leave for the trip in the morning because of heavy traffic. When they arrive, Noah is impressed by his beautiful, remote home, though she feels uneasy realizing they are in the middle of nowhere. Looking around, she notices there's no cell service. Steve casually mentions that the Wi-Fi isn't working either. As they chat, Steve offers Noah a drink. She accepts without hesitation. As he keeps talking about their weekend trip, Noah suddenly begins to feel dizzy. Struggling against the vertigo, she collapses. When she wakes up, she's in a different room. Steve is sitting across from her. Confused, she asks what happened, and Steve bluntly tells her he drugged her. At first, she thinks he's joking, until she tries to stand and realizes her hands are chained to the floor. Panicking, she begs Steve to remove the restraints, but he ignores her. As she begins to scream and thrash, Steve insists she listen. He finally reveals the truth. He sells human meat, and he plans to sell hers. He explains that he only sells fresh meat, so he intends to keep her alive as long as possible. After he leaves the room, Noah screams for help. To her shock, she hears someone answer from another room nearby. Noah calls for help, but the voice that answers belongs to another girl, Penny. She reveals that she is also trapped and that both share the same fate. Penny explains that she is being slowly eaten by Steve's clients, who buy pieces of her flesh. Meanwhile, Molly begins to grow suspicious when she notices inconsistencies in the messages sent from Noah's phone. Investigating further, she discovers that the photo Steve used was not taken by him, but stolen from the internet. Back in captivity, Steve insists that Noah eat the meal he prepared, but she refuses. He tries to act warmly toward her, which only makes the cruelty of the situation clearer. When he takes her to the bathroom, Noah attempts to escape, but he knocks her unconscious. When she wakes up, she finds herself on an operating table, with Steve telling her this was her punishment for being a bad girl. Later, Penny and Noah find comfort in one another. Noah admits that she slept with Steve, something that surprises Penny since no other victim had experienced that before. Meanwhile, Molly continues her search, investigating Steve's full name. She discovers that he is married to a woman named Anna and has 2 children. Meanwhile, Noah receives magazines to pass the time. In one of them, she finds a message from a previous victim, encouraging her to use Steve's attraction to her as an advantage. Following this advice, she starts to get closer to him, even asking what human flesh tastes like. Although suspicious, Steve opens up and reveals details about his profession, how he first discovered the taste of human meat, and how he built his clientele. The trust between them grows to the point where Steve prepares her a special dinner, pasta with meatballs made of human flesh. Despite the horror, Noah forces herself to taste it. Careful not to show disgust, Noah swallows the bite and describes the taste as indescribable. After bringing her back to her room, Steve goes off to operate on another victim. Meanwhile, Paul begins to suspect something is wrong and plans to follow the location Molly had previously sent him. On the other hand, Noah's plan seems to be working. Steve returns the next day with a gift, a beautiful dress, and invites her to another dinner, which she accepts. Before leaving, he hands her some toiletries so she can freshen up. The two share a romantic candlelit dinner once again, eating human flesh. After the first course, Steve reveals a hidden shelf behind a painting, filled with the belongings and IDs of his past victims. Noah notices, however, that her things are missing from the collection. Steve tells her that he keeps them with him. Among the items, she also spots Molly's phone, but manages to remain composed, continuing to eat as though nothing is wrong. Overwhelmed, Noah begins to cry, saying she feels awful for eating human flesh. This draws Steve in, who tries to comfort her. They kiss, but after dinner he forgets to chain her up. Seizing the moment, she invites him to dance, and amid the romantic atmosphere they end up in bed together. Later, while excusing herself to the bathroom, Noah suddenly bites his groin, causing him to scream in agony. She quickly blinds him with toothpaste to the eyes, steals his keys, frees herself, and locks him inside his own cell. Noah rushes to rescue Molly, who is bound and gagged, and then frees Penny, though she has lost a leg. Together, the three attempt to escape, supporting Penny along the way. They make it to the kitchen, arming themselves with knives to confront Steve when he breaks free. Despite their numbers, Steve fights fiercely. As Penny crawls away, he tries to grab her, but Noah manages to kick him in the face, giving them another chance to flee. They recover their phones before running outside. Because of Penny's injury, their escape is slowed, allowing Steve to catch up, now armed with a gun. Just then, Paul arrives at the house, but hearing the gunfire, he retreats in fear. Moments later, Anne arrives, concerned after failing to reach Steve. Inside, she sees the bloody remains of the struggle. While outside, Steve hunts the women through the woods. When Noah's phone rings, Steve finds her hiding spot. She attacks him, managing to wrestle him to the ground. With Molly and Penny's help, they overpower him, and Molly finally shoots him in the head with his own gun. The women run to safety, but Noah goes back into the woods to recover her phone, leaving Penny under Molly's care. Unfortunately, she encounters Anne, who pretends to be another of Steve's victims. Noah sees through the lie, but Anne overpowers her, strangling her against a tree. In a desperate move, Noah stabs her in the neck with a set of keys. Even wounded, Anne keeps fighting until Molly appears and bashes her head repeatedly with a hammer in a fit of rage. At last, the two women embrace their survival. Not long after, Noah receives a text from Chad, casually asking if she's okay. This is the end. Subscribe and like to help an unemployed person. Until next time.